Hi, my name is Lawante Young. Hello, my name is Lawante Young.
Hi, how's it going? My name is Lawante Young. Hello, I'm your host, Lawante Young.
Hi, my name is Lawante Young.
Hi, my name is Lawante Young, and in this podcast, we talk about the things that affect your daily lives. How's it going? My name is Lawante Young, and in this podcast, we talk about things that affect your daily lives. We're going to be continuing off from where we left off in our last episode, Stories from County. There's a story that I want to get into. It's very intense, very crazy, a lot of emotion involved. And without further ado, let's get into it. Now, like I explained in the last podcast, going to county, going to jail, it is something that is very different from what you hear in movies, what you see in TV, or what you see in TV and movies, what you hear from other people, what other people talk about. And I think it just depends on where you go. I was in California, and I went to county in California. I think that differs from places like Alaska and Ohio, Nebraska, wherever else there is. I think it just depends on where you are. And where I went, it was nothing good, nothing fun. And of course, going to jail, going to prison, or anything like that is not supposed to be fun. I understand that, I get that, but man, I did not expect what happened to happen when I went in there. I just wasn't ready. You think you're ready, you think you know everything, you know the basics and shit, but it's not at all. Not at all. The rules are very different from inside there. And, I kind of learned this firsthand going through it. There's a lot of different stories that I want to tell you guys, things that I want to go into and share. I can't tell it all, but I'm going to try to tell the best ones that come to mind. And the very first one that comes to mind when I first went in was an encounter that I had. My first interaction was a choice I had to make. We'll just say that. Now, how it started was I was in a transition pod, okay, before I went to Gen Pop. I was in I guess what you call a transition cell, where there's a 4-man cell, 4 people to a cell, right? Going down in the line, 2 stories. So 1 story and then another story below. And the same setup with a glass wall covering the other side. So the glass wall and cells. And we were going to, I guess, dinner, you can say. The cells, they pop open. Everybody comes out into the hall. We all congregate, and we start heading down to the meal room. I don't know what all the technical names are, but that's where we eat, okay? The dining hall. So we go to the dining hall, and there was an incident, I should say, where somebody got into it with the officers. I don't know what happened. I don't know exactly what was said. I try to mind my own business when I'm in there. I try to get my food. I try to sit down and eat because you don't have that long to eat. It's just a few minutes. By the time you sit down, you got to start putting that food in your mouth because you're being told to get up, start heading back to the cell. You have no luxuries, no pleasures in there. It's crazy. But something happened where we got up a lot faster. We didn't even get to really sit down and eat. Like by the time we sat down, started putting that food in our mouths, trying to eat and shit, trying to get shit together. We were already being told to get up, throw our shit away, and go back to the cells. Now, one of the guys, he wasn't having it. But he waited until we got back to the cells to cause a scene. He wasn't in my cell. He was a couple cells down. Actually, he could have actually been right next to me. I'm not too sure on that. He could have been 2 cells down and right next to me. But he was pretty close. He was on the top floor with me. And, I don't know what he's in for at all. A lot of these guys, they be lying about different shit. But I know there was a guy downstairs. It was all white people in that cell. And I guess they were skinheads. Skinheads, they're racist and shit like that. But he was talking to the black guy that was causing the problem. And they're going back and forth and shit. And I guess they've been in there for a while, so they got to know each other. They know the ins and out. And they're talking, okay? Now, an officer comes by, and he stops the officer. And he's telling him, like, hey, there's some BS how what happened, how we didn't get time to even eat. We went in there, got our food with the whoop, and you're already telling us to go back. And he's making his case, making a statement. The guy's like, you know what? I'll tell my sergeant when I go back. I'll forward your complaint. And the guy's being polite with the officer, because if you're not polite with the officer and you get on his bad side, man, there's a lot of things they can do. And the number one thing that they don't want happening, especially to the whole pod, because somebody wants to get out of line, is the pod getting tossed. Now, when your pod gets tossed, your shit gets fucked up. Okay, pictures are pulled off the walls, blankets are torn. There's all different kind of things that they do. Your commissary, they get like once every 2 weeks from the money that's on your books, gets destroyed. I mean, absolutely destroyed. And that's money gone. They're not gonna reimburse you for any of that. So that's what nobody wants, your pod getting tossed. So the officer leaves, and it's just us inmates. And, he's in there, he's upset. He's pacing his cell. Now, I'm chilling and shit, but I'm listening. And he makes a case that I agreed with, something that I agreed with. And I told him, like, you know what? That's crazy, that they really be doing that. I didn't even know they'd be doing that. Now, what he responded, right, it's just someone that's upset, and I get that, but that's not the way you talk to another person, especially another man. All right, he's gonna shout back, like, you know what? I don't need a sidekick. You need to kick back. I don't need no sidekick. I get upset. I'm yelling back. Man, I ain't nobody's sidekick. The fuck? I'm standing up for what I'm talking about. And you just so happen to line up with what I'm talking about. Now he starts making threats. And now at this point, I have a decision to make, right? Either I can continue the problem, and when these cell doors pop, we go at it. I defend myself. He defends himself. Because everybody's listening, okay? That's something you have to remember while you're in jail. There's nothing to do in there. So everybody's listening. Everybody's listening to the whole thing, and you're being put into a category when you get into it with somebody. Either you're going to do something about it, or worse, you're going to be a little bitch about it and not doing anything. And you don't want to be labeled a bitch. That's something that you don't want to be labeled. So what I do is, I kick back. I don't continue it. I kind of just drop it dead in the water, and I go sit down. And I'm thinking about this, like, man, if he does something, I'm going to have to do something. So luckily, what happened was, I'm sitting in the cell. He's still going off. The other people are trying to calm him down. And the skinhead starts yelling up. Now, they look in the mirror when they talk to each other. So he's looking in the mirror, looking up. That guy's looking in the mirror, looking down. And that's how they talk to each other. And, probably an hour went by, maybe an hour and a half. There's no time in there that you can really keep, because there's no clocks. Nothing really happens that let you know. There's a TV in the day room, but I was close enough to hear it. A lot of times, you don't get that luxury. Now, this is a transition cell. Okay, so I'm not even in there for that long. And this happens. And luckily, the skinhead, he yells up to me, and he's like, hey, man, like, don't even worry about it. And this is one of those old heads, too, because I guess he's a lifer. He's been in there for a while. And he's yelling to me. He's like, hey, man, don't worry about it. He's upset. Shit was said. And you know what? Don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. And because he said that and he's yelling that up, everybody seems to be like, it's whatever. Heated words, heated moment. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So, luckily, I got to slide on that one. But I was like, man, I'm hoping this guy don't try to do something. You know what I mean? Because now it puts me in a position. See, what happens is you get in a fight in jail, too. That's added charges. I'm not even in there that long. I'm not trying to be in there longer. That's not something I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to prolong the process. So I'm like, man, but if something happens, something jumps off, I got to do what I got to do, so that's what I was mostly worried about. I'm not trying to be in there for so goddamn long, and what is it, GBI, great bodily injury. If I happen to hurt him, or he hurts me, but I'm not worried about that. I'm worried about me hurting him. I break something or I cause a bleed, I cut his ass or some shit, or I hit him in the nose, he gets a nosebleed, hit him on the lip, his lip starts bleeding. That's great bodily injury. That's even more time than a normal fight. So I'm not trying to do any of that. That's not even on the cards for me. I'm not trying to do none of that. So luckily that I got to slide with that. Now, after this, I get moved to Gen Pop, right? 60 people in the cell. This is where all that crazy stories come from my last stories from county, first part. And luckily I was upstairs because downstairs it was fight night. It was fight night every night. A bunch of wild people down there. And I had some wild people upstairs, but they were all cool with each other. All the game bangers hanged out together, all the attempted murderers. People were cool. I read my book. I try to stay out of people's way. I'm just trying to have this time fly by and not get into anything. And was the best part is the pod bosses, because there was 2 pod bosses in my cell alone, not the bottom cell, but just the top. It was segregated by the others and by the blacks. Now the others, there was one Hawaiian, there was some Japanese people, and some Mexicans over there. And man, you wouldn't think that you'll see like some old ass people in jail, but man, there was a few of them, and a few people that looked like innocent old man too. She was crazy. It was wild. I know there was 2, old, like they were at least 70 years old, Asians. I don't think they even spoke the language. I don't know what they did, but they had to sit in jail. And I'm not gonna go there and talk to them and ask them because I already claim black, so we don't interact. The only time we interact is when the heads, they say it's cool or something happens. Now there was little scuffles here and there, but nothing major. Nothing major. It was one major incident that I'm about to get into right now that really opened my eyes to a lot of things in jail, especially with the police. There was this guy, right? It happened. I can't tell you what day it happened. I can tell you it was at night because it was after we ate, and it was like hours that went by, and the lights went off. That's usually when things pop off, is when the lights go off. Okay. The lights are off, and right when they got turned off, we all just chilling. Everybody's laughing. People playing Uno. Some people gambling. And out of nowhere, you start hearing slapping sounds. Someone getting hit. And we're all like, what the hell? What's going on? You don't really hear no voices. You just hear smacking sounds. So I lean over. I'm already on my bed. I lean over. And I look past the bars. I'm looking into the reflection downstairs. And you see this big guy smacking the shit out of this tall black guy. Okay. And out of nowhere, 2 more people get in. And now they fighting. Right? He's trying to defend himself. I'm like, okay, they get in it. Now, usually fights don't last that long. It's like 2 minutes, 3 minutes max. Because the lights would get flicked on. Cops come running in, riot gear, guns hot, telling everybody to get down. They start arresting different people, start pulling people out of shut. They shut that down quick. In this case, they did nothing of the sort. So we sitting there, and the whole pod gets quiet at this point. They are dead quiet. Everybody's at the bars. Either they're on the bed or they're crouched down because they're not trying to make it obvious. You don't want to be that person. That would be considered snitching. You try to make it obvious that they're fighting or other people are fighting. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. So everybody's on the beds. People who are on the other side can't really see the reflection that well. They come over to their friends' beds. And so there's like 2 on the bunk, sometimes 3 on the bunk, and they just looking, right? Trying to see what's going on, trying to peer into it. Now, this guy is getting tossed around. Apparently 2 people got tired, 3 people got tired, and they're tagging out. It's like the whole pod is fucking this guy up, right? There's 60 people in the pod. And downstairs, it's all black people. all black people. I don't know if they're all in the gang or what. I don't know what was said. I don't know what happened, but this is what's happening right now. So it got to a point where he ran, right? He got away from him. He ran. We're all watching. Nobody saying nothing. He ran from the main room where the beds are into the bathroom area. And there's a camera right there. And it's the only part that's lit. The lights are on. Camera right there. He gets in front of the camera with the lights on. And he's shouting. He's yelling for help. He's asking for help. Help never comes. Instead, these people come downstairs that were fucking him up. They casually walk over there. They pick his ass up and they take him back into the dark where the beds are. And his beating gets vicious. I mean, now they're bouncing his head off the metal beds. You can hear it. The sounds was crazy. Like, I never heard a sound like that of a skull getting bounced off of metal. It was cringe-worthy. I was cringing. But I couldn't look away. I couldn't. Now, he's bleeding. He's crying. He's asking for help. He's begging them to stop. They don't stop. They just keep beating him. At this point, there's like 5 or 6 people beating him, stomping him out. At one point, the guy who actually started the whole thing, the big guy, was like trying to be an upstanding guy. It's like, you know what? Let him stand up. Let him get up. Let him get up. So they spread out. He didn't want to get up. He got into his top bunk. He thought it was over. He thought it was done because they didn't do anything. Instead, they surrounded his bunk and they yanked his ass off. Woof. Hit the floor. Started beating him again. This lasted all night. Okay. I don't know when they stopped. Come morning, first thing, the lights come on. Now, the first thing they do is take count. Okay, they take count, take your name, number, with the woo, make sure everybody's where they need to be at. They didn't do that. Lights come on. Now here comes like 20 officers. Could have been more. They open the bottom cell, take this guy out. You see bloody sheets being taken out. They take out all his shit. Usually when all your stuff gets taken out, you're being transferred or whatever, but he might not have been getting transferred. I don't know where he was getting taken to, but definitely was not directly to another cell. Because this guy was like, he was beat the fuck up. Okay, the sheets were bloody. A lot of bloody sheets. And they're over again this pod of speech talking about, oh, you guys want to have fight night? Wooty woo, wooty woo. Now the officers, they watched this whole thing happen. Nobody stopped it. Nobody came in. They let it happen. So what they did was they tossed a pod. Their pod got tossed. Everybody got pulled out. And everybody's shit got destroyed. Beds were taken too as the punishment. So the people who got their beds taken had to lay directly on just a metal like rack, right? That's all it is. It's just a metal rack, top and bottom, top bunk, bottom bunk. They took beds. Now, the beds you get aren't like comfortable at all. It adds a little more comfort than laid on metal. Cause they're like this thick. That's how thick the beds are. Okay. No comfort. What some inmates will do, they'll make trades. They'll trade their beds for a commissary, whatever. So add a little more comfort to their bed, make their bed a little more thicker. But man, people lost their beds. Sheets got ripped up, put in the toilet. Books got put in the toilet, ripped up for no reason. People's families and loved ones that were posted on the walls, tore down, destroyed, confiscated. Letters confiscated, destroyed. I mean, they tossed the shit out their pod. Honestly, I couldn't tell you what the reason for all that was. I mean, they could have just watched the cameras. They know exactly who did what. It wasn't the whole pod that was in on it, but they punished the whole pod. That is how it goes. Everybody got punished. And when they went back, people's commissaries gone, destroyed, scattered everywhere. People were picking up the mess. It was like a hurricane hit that place, and you can just see it when they were walking around. They were just like, wow, just devastated. But you know what? They caused it to themselves. But there's innocent people in there that was not involved. They stayed to themselves. They got thrown in too. And it's just a fucked up feeling. It really is. Now, I know there's some people hearing these stories and watching this. They're thinking like, well, you know what? That's what you guys get. You guys are in jail. You guys did something wrong with the whoop. But that's not always the case. Okay. Because there's this saying in America, from what I'm told, I never really seen it, but what I'm told is that you're innocent until proven guilty. So there's some people that are in jail, being held in jail, and they have an ongoing trial. They're not guilty. They were never sentenced. Right? They're either awaiting trial or a trial is ongoing. And at the end of that trial, I mean, it can be found that they are innocent or they're guilty, or their case is thrown out or dropped or whatever the thing is. But meanwhile, while they're waiting, they're innocent until proven guilty. But they got to wait in jail. So they got to go through the whole jail experience. And at the end of their trial, they could be innocent. Innocent, let go, and free. So for a lot of bullshit to happen while you're in there, people are like, oh, well, you're in there for a reason. Turn out that they're innocent. And then what? That statement doesn't stand. So it's crazy. So you can't really judge everybody. Can't judge everybody. You can't say, oh, well, you did it to yourself. You got yourself in this situation. No, that's not always the case. That's not always the case. My name is Lonte Young. This is my episode on Stories from County, Part 2. Let me know what you guys think. Go and drop a like, drop a comment, share with your friends and family, and just let me know your experiences, something that you've gone through, or what you think about this system. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.